While others talk theory from their studios, I take you into the field to show you real deals, real investors, and real results. This is not classroom real estate. This is the unfiltered, boots on the ground playbook of the pros. Hi guys, my name is Brian Tripp. I live in Birmingham, Alabama, but I travel all across the country to bring you in-person interviews and property walkthroughs of professional real estate entrepreneurs. I'm so glad you're along for the ride, so let's get into today's show. What's up, everybody? We are in Rock Hill, South Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, maybe by about 30 minutes or so. And I'm here with the one and only Larry Goins, and I'm super honored and grateful to be in your home.
Awesome.
Beautiful home. Thank you for allowing me to do this. But guys, today we're going to talk about real estate. Larry's been doing it for as long as a lot of us can even remember. I want to talk about those days,
Sure.
Kind of like how even you got started,
Sure.
and how you get other people started, what it looked like, in the kind of like the earlier guru kind of days. And then what it looks like today. What's the real estate landscape look like today to you? Because I know maybe you're not as active in the business as you were previously or as you have been, but you're still doing real estate deals. You still have
Every
a
day.
team doing real estate deals. So I just kind of want to get your opinion on how you see real estate. And we're going to talk maybe a little bit more about Charlotte too, the Charlotte MSA as well. We're wearing our rock and roll t-shirts today. I wore Foo Fighters. I had no idea if you were going to, I didn't know what you were going to get some Pink Floyd going on. Pink Floyd, not quite my taste. But I wore this Foo Fighters shirt just for Larry, I'm a huge music fan. I know you
That's
are
awesome.
too, obviously.
I should have worn my Van Halen shirt.
Oh, see, that's right up my alley. Are you a Diamond Dave or Sammy?
Sammy. Yeah, but I like them both. I really do.
We're in Larry's home. This is a huge house, and you said 50 acres?
48.
48 acres. Are you retired?
No. I'm, what is it? Ross says I'm refired.
I don't know. Who's Ross? I don't know.
Ross Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, our business is a lot different than it used to be. I remember at one time when we were churning and burning, we had 26 employees between the education business, coaching, mentoring, seminar business, and real estate. We had 26 employees. But now it's myself and Candace does our disposition. She does her own thing as well. Candace's mom is our accounting manager. And then I have one VA in the Philippines. We're on Zoom all day long, talking to each other and stuff like that. So that's our team. I do 100% of the acquisitions now, but we're only doing 2 to 3 deals a month.
So what does that mean? You do the acquisitions. Are you going to the properties?
No. Well,
you're just talking to them on the phone.
Yeah, I do the vast majority of my acquisitions over the phone. I call up the seller. We do direct mail mainly. We do some other stuff, but mainly direct mail to make the phone ring, right? So I talk to all the people and get the task set through our CRM, and then I make the offer. And once the offer is accepted, then I go out and see the property. Sometimes Candace goes out to see them too.
So you're still active in real estate.
Yeah.
Just maybe not quite as much as you had been doing. So
I'm doing as much as I want to. I enjoy it. I love real estate. There's so many things you can do with it. Like you and I were talking about Scott, Jelinek recently or earlier. And there's so many things you can do with real estate, whether it's fix and flip, be a landlord, seller financing, whatever it is, right? Now we do mainly, I just wholesale, and I wholesale in my IRA, HSA, and 401k. And I also do private lending.
Because you've been doing it for so long and you probably have seen it all or just about all of it. What do you prefer to do? What do you enjoy? What's the aspect of real estate that really kind of gets you fired up still after all these years?
I love wholesaling. A lot of people call wholesaling. Well, a lot of people call wholesaling as the gateway to real estate.
Okay.
To getting started, it has the lowest barrier to entry. But the thing I love about wholesaling is it's immediate gratification. I buy it at 10 o'clock, I sell it at 10:30, my money's in the bank, right? And I don't have to deal with contractors, I don't have to do rehabs, I don't have to do any of that stuff, right? So if you're doing fix and flip, which I've done many of them, I used to be a GC. But when you do wholesaling, when you close the deal, you get paid. When you do a fix and flip, you close the deal, your work starts, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason I love wholesaling.
And nowadays, some of the wholesalers are making as much as the flipper, as the rehab.
Well, the last time we looked at it, which was probably 8 months ago, our average wholesale profit was $39,000.
And that's where I'm at in Birmingham, that's a pretty good flip.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like I'm doing this on $200,000 or $300,000 houses. I might buy a property for 10 grand and sell it for 50, right? I'm buying 10 acres right now down in South Carolina in the middle of nowhere, 10 acres for 10 grand.
You're getting it for 10 grand.
I'm getting it for 10 grand.
How much can you sell it for?
And it's got a mobile home on it. I could probably sell it for anywhere from $49,900 to $79,900.
There's so much competition, especially in wholesaling. Wholesaling is kind of almost out of control with as much competition as there is with even people who are they really wholesaling? We don't even know who they are. But is that kind of where you're seeing real estate or wholesaling specifically? Is these opportunities maybe in these areas that people aren't targeting?
Man, that's a great question. When I was teaching all the time, I used to talk about small town profits. In fact, Joe McCall and I put together a course called Small Town Profits. I live in the Charlotte MSA, right? And I like to go out 2, 3, 4 counties out. I don't buy anything in Charlotte, right? I buy in about 15 counties around within an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours out. Just like the 10 acres I'm buying, it's in Camden, South Carolina, which is an hour and a half from here. Right? Camden's just a small town, smaller than Rock Hill, right? But when you go outside, you don't have that competition, right? You want to go where there's no RIA groups.
No, and that's an interesting. It's a really interesting point, and especially we're sitting here talking to someone who's been doing this for as long as you have. You obviously know what you're talking about.
35 years.
Yeah, so 35 years in real estate, and if I were to ask you about Charlotte real estate specifically, I mean, I'm sure you could give me an intelligent answer, but it sounds to me like what you have built up over the last however many years is really understanding these kind of outside areas even more so. So if I were to come into the Charlotte MSA, I'm an investor, what would I do with my money? What would I do? How could I get a return on my money? What's the best way? What's the best use of my money?
There's 2 different kinds of real estate. There's real estate as a business and real estate as an investment.
Right.
A business is buy, sell,
right.
Whether it's wholesaling or fix and flip or whatever. Real estate is an investment. Am I going to be a landlord? Am I going to be a private lender? Am I going to do slow flips? You know, I even call them slow flips now. I wrote a course called Filthy Riches about doing the same thing.
Right, it's seller financing.
right. But even I call them slow flips.
Scott is just developing like this his own lexicon.
Right, I love it. That's great. But yeah, real estate is a business or real estate is an investment. It just depends on what you want to do. I'm to the point now, which everybody should want to get to this point, is you're to the point where you want your money to work for you instead of you working for your money. I mean, I'm doing deals every day. I'm on the phone, talking to 10, 15, 20 people every single day, sometimes more. And we do a lot of direct mail. We mail out 7,000 postcards a week, not a month.
That's a lot.
But I'm the only one that fields those calls, right? I take those calls. But Brian, I remember when we used to mail out 7,000 postcards a week and we would get 300 calls. Now we mail out 7,000 a week. We're lucky to get 100 calls in a month. It's just the way it is. The market's changed. And I use some really good lists. Yeah.
So going back to what I just asked a second ago, let's say I'm treating real estate as a business. If I'm treating real estate as my business, whether I'm wholesaling or fix and flipping or whatever it might be,
right?
If I'm in this area, what would you advise me to do?
If you're going to do fix and flip,
I'm in the Charlotte MSA.
Okay, if you're in the Charlotte MSA, you want to do fix and flip, you need to get on everybody's wholesaler list, right? Because wholesalers can provide the deal flow for people who are going to fix and flip. If you want to wholesale, then you're going to have to do your own marketing. right? You're going to have to put out bandit signs. You know a little something about bandit signs,
A little something.
right?
They still they're pretty they're kind of illegal in a lot of places nowadays.
Kind of,
People
yeah.
still use them?
Yeah, they still use them.
Probably more so out in the country, huh?
We typically use them for disposition, not
Yeah.
acquisition.
Yeah.
Because here's one thing I found, and you'll have to reel me back in.
No, you're good.
But one thing I found is you don't get calls from county officials when you're dispoing a property.
That's so true.
I think it's because maybe it's even subliminal,
Mhm.
but for the zoning or building inspection, they're like, this sign will be gone in 30 days, right? Whereas if you're just advertising that I buy houses, that's an ongoing model.
Mm.
You know, you're going to put those signs out all the time.
Mhm.
But if you're advertising a property for sale, that's temporary, right?
Man, we would put signs in yards, obviously, just bandit signs in yards saying this house, this house is for sale. But we would put them within a 3-block radius, a 5-block radius, half-mile radius of that house to get that thing sold, especially at like Scott's model, the seller financing model.
Right.
Because, let me ask you this too. You're talking about wholesaling. You're sending out 7,000 mailers a week. If you're today, because I've been doing mail for not as long as you, but I've been doing mail for 10 years plus. And if you're doing mail, you're going to get a lot of leads from the periphery or the downtown real bad areas. And for me, where I'm at, you're going to get it for the real bad areas, a lot of calls, and then like the periphery, like this. I'm not even talking about the suburbs. I'm talking about the country. Like you're talking about like going a few counties out.
Right.
So that's the majority of my calls. So that's how the whole slow flip thing came to be for me, is if I'm getting majority of these calls, I'm not really getting the A+ houses on mail.
And I don't want those A+ houses.
I'm getting these houses that I can literally buy them in Birmingham for $1,000, $5,000, maybe 10.
Right.
I'm not paying that much.
Right.
But these are just war zone type of properties, or they're way out there in the country.
And you could take that $5,000 house, turn around and sell it for 30 grand, get 2 or 3 down.
Okay. Or you could, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Or you can sell it for 80 grand and get 10 grand down.
Okay.
And I mean,
see, it's been a while since I bought it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like where you're thinking there. I mean, so this is what we were doing in 2014, 15, and 16, which you can absolutely do today, is these type of houses. Quick sidebar, quick story. This literally just happened a couple of days ago. I got a blind email saying, we just bought a property at tax sale, or as it was actually sold to state. So we went ahead and caught the taxes up. But your company has an outstanding mortgage. I need you to release this mortgage because we're trying to get clear title.
Right.
Like, okay, send me the deal. What's the property? I'd written a $7,500 mortgage. Going back to your example on just this property I absolutely couldn't do anything with. I think I got it for $500.
Right.
I've gotten a few properties where they just deed it over to me because they don't want to pay the taxes. They don't want the headache with it. I believe it. Just take this. Take this off our hands. I think that one I either bought for $500 or $1,000. And I turned around and I sold it for maybe $5 grand down, and I wrote a note for $7,500. Guy never pays. Well, what am I going to do? I don't want that house. I'm not foreclosing on it. This is from 2016.
That's a zombie foreclosure right there, because you don't want the house back.
I don't want the house back. This is from 2016. That's 9 years ago. I'm getting this email. Like, and they're like, would you take $2,500 to clear this mortgage? And I've kind of asked people, what would you do if you're in that situation? The $7,500 mortgage, and they're offering me $2,500 to clear it up. What would you do?
So do they have the property sold?
No, they have bought it they have gone and quieted the title. They have a now general warranty deed.
Okay.
But there's an outstanding mortgage.
And are they trying to sell the property or trying to refinance it?
Neither. They want to keep it and rent it and keep it as a rental.
Okay. I would respond with no.
Just no.
Right.
Not counter offer.
Because listen, they need you more than you need them. Right? So let them come back. You might even say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You're going to have to do a little better than that.
Okay.
Right?
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. I like it. Most people, I've probably polled about 4 or 5 people, and almost everyone says, I I would counter offer at like 5,000.
Right, right.
I'm like,
That's most people's first thought,
right.
right?
You know what I did?
What?
I probably should have done that. That's a little bit better. Maybe that's a little bit better. I said, no, I can't do 2,500. I can't discount it at all. I need the full 7,500. But what I will do is I'll waive the fees and the interest. There's no fees or interest. I created this note.
Right, right.
But I'll waive the fees and the interest.
Right.
He comes back and he says, done deal. Let's do it.
There you go. That's awesome.
But but if he took that
You
offer,
just made an extra $5,000.
I made an extra $5,000, but could I even made more on fees though? Because he
Maybe.
came back, he took my first offer.
Whatever your note and mortgage said, you know?
Yeah. So anyway, we literally I got this check on Wednesday. Today's Friday. And I just 74, I think it was 74.75.
That's found money.
That's from 9 years ago. That money just literally fell out of the sky. I didn't think
that's found money, man.
And I probably have 10 more of those out there.
That's great.
That maybe one day.
That's great.
I don't know.
That's great.
But just those types of properties, I love that you're saying this. I love that we're having this conversation because so many people who are trying to get started today, just forget even people trying to get started. So many people doing real estate today are so focused on the competitive and competition of your main town and your main area. Like to go into Charlotte right now, how many people are trying to wholesale in Charlotte proper? Like the actual city of Charlotte. How many people are trying to do fix and flips in the main suburbs of Charlotte?
Not only that, but everybody's looking for a 3-2 track house that needs paint and carpet. You can't find those. There aren't any. They're elusive. Not only that, but the vast majority of people starting out, they think they're going to go to the MLS. They're going to find a house that's listed on the MLS. They're going to pay close to list, or if it's listed for $250, they think it's a deal if it's $240, and then it needs no work, but somehow it's worth $350, right? That's not a deal. I had a guy contact me the other day looking to buy half of a duplex. It's listed on the MLS, been listed for 6 months. He's getting a little bit of a deal. I think it was close to that number. Is listed for $350. And I think he was paying $300 maybe or $325, but there's nothing to fix up, right? Mm-hmm. And he's going to rent it. He's going to keep it as a rental, right? And well, how much will it rent for? $1,500. I said, that's not a deal. Right. That's not a deal. Next, right? You can't make any money with that deal.
But I love that you're kind of dispelling the myth that you can go you can go 2 or 3 counties out. Oh, and you're in, I mean, it's not like you're in, it's not like you're in Baltimore, a densely populated area where you go 2 counties out. Now you're in Washington, D.C., or now you're in Philadelphia.
Right.
You're in South Carolina. You're in North Carolina. You know what I mean? You're in as much of the country as anyone would be who's watching this.
We buy more in North Carolina than South Carolina, and we're in about 15 to 17 counties, typically an hour and a half to 2 hours out. Yeah. Right? That's about as far out as we want to go. Although we have wholesale properties in 12 different states, including Alabama, done many deals in Birmingham and all the little surrounding areas around it.
Right. Well, Larry, I would kind of like to transition out of talking about real estate specifically I want to kind of get to know you a little bit more and talk a little bit more about you. I'm personally interested in learning what real estate was like 35 years ago when you got started. What even made you, how did it even come on the landscape? How did it come into your vision, come into your eyesight to do where does real estate come from? Because not a lot of people were doing it. Now it's like everywhere. We've got YouTube, we've got these podcasts.
There wasn't RIA groups.
TikToks. There's no RIA groups.
There wasn't coaches.
There's nothing. When I talk to people like you, I hear like Carlton Sheets. I hear like infomercials.
Tom Vu.
But how do you even get into doing something creative in real estate? Aside from, I guess, being a landlord's always been a thing.
Right.
But how do you even get into real estate from 35 years ago?
So 35 years ago, I've always been very entrepreneurial. When I was a kid, I was going to the flea market, selling stuff. I was, doing anything to make a buck, right? Buying and selling stuff, whatever. But I just wanted to do bigger deals, right? And I started reading. I mean, when we would get together, our families and stuff, cousins get together, man, they were out playing. I was reading a real estate book.
Like
I was
what?
reading a motivation book or something.
So what kind of real estate books are available? Where are you getting these? Are you going to the library, or like what kind of real estate book would
Oh,
you be reading?
you could buy them. You could get them at the library. There was there was a thing way back in the day. This was in the 80s. There was a thing called the seminar library where I saw it in a magazine, Success Magazine or something like that. They would send you a printed little directory, and it had Carlton Sheets, Tom Vu, Robert Allen, all these different people, you know, that had courses, and it was almost like Netflix used to be, right? Where they would send it to you and you send it back. They would send you cassettes and you would check it out for a week and then send it back. That's called the seminar library. And it hadn't been around since the 80s for obvious reasons. But that I used to get all kind of stuff for that. And I haven't shown you my library. We have a library in the house and it's full of books, full of books. And I got a few books over there on that shelf. But uh, but yeah, I'm a big proponent of education. And I also know a good idea doesn't care where it comes from. So I would always be asking people questions, trying to learn. And podcasts now, man, it just blows me away the information you can get on podcasts. I don't care if you're trying to be a better human, a better husband, a better father, or whatever it is, a better real estate investor, a motivational person, whatever it is, there's podcasts out there for it, right? In fact, most of the younger generation, they get their news from podcasts instead of TV.
Yeah.
I saw that just the other day.
So how old would you, I mean, I'm not trying to date you, but how, in the 80s, like you're in your 20s, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
You're in your
I'm
20s?
64 years old. I was born in 60.
So you're just trying to learn and get as much information as you can.
Exactly.
And I talk to a lot of people who are in their own way, in their own library, whether it's a YouTube library or a podcast library, they're trying to just get a lot of information and learn too. And I think I was that way too.
Right.
At what point for you did it go from I'm trying to absorb information to I'm trying to take this information and put it into practice?
I think I've always been a practitioner in the sense that I realize there's a lot of people in our space that come to RIA groups, that come to seminars, buy books. They don't get past the first chapter. They don't ever make an offer. You know, back when I was speaking and teaching and training and doing coaching and seminars and stuff, you would get people that would, every once in a while, that would come up and say, I bought your book, but it didn't work. Books don't work. You have to work it. You know, my first answer is, how many offers did you make? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I read through everything and I saw what you have to do, but how many offers did you make? And then my follow up with that is, so
I read your book. And
approximately what chance did you have of buying something if you made 0 offers? What chance did you have of buying something?
Yeah.
You got to make an offer to everybody you talk to.
Right.
If you don't make an offer, you got 0 chance of buying something.
You know, you mentioned Joe McCall a moment ago. And
great guy. I love
Joe, him. So when I first started, I got on a podcast. And this is 2012, there weren't very many podcasts. And I just typed in real estate. It's the very first one that came up, the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast.
Right, right.
And I clicked it and I started listening. I'm playing video games while listening, hours and hours. And I was just I don't know, kid, just being a kid, just not a literal, but just being a kid in a man's body playing video games. But I'm listening, podcast after podcast, nothing but Joe McCall. Joe McCall, and then his partner at the time, Alex Youngblood. Joe McCall, Joe McCall, Joe McCall. I know this guy. I've got a relationship with this guy.
Right.
Or at least his voice, right?
Right.
And I remember the first time I ever met him, I was just like, he's like legendary to me because I'm trying to learn and he's just speaking into me over and over and over and over and over.
Right.
And it's finally, okay, that's a great, and I was doing some wholesaling, but that's like that's a good nugget. I'm going to apply that to what I'm
Right.
doing. Oh, that's a good little nugget. Let me apply that.
Right. Right.
Joe used to say, you got to make 5 offers a day. Every single day. Don't let a day go by where you
Right.
don't make 5 offers.
Right.
That doesn't sound intimidating.
No,
To make
it doesn't.
5 offers. Have 5 meaningful conversations every single day with a seller.
But that goes back to just, by the way, I got to tell you a quick story about Joe McCall.
Okay.
My wife and I are laying in bed one night.
Oh my gosh.
She's listening to something. I don't know what it is. I say, honey, what are you listening to? She said, Joe McCall's podcast. I'm like, what? I got a radio show. What about me?
That's what I was just thinking, like, what am I? What am I here? I'm chopped liver here.
That was hilarious.
What do you want to?
Joe,
tell me what you want to know about real estate?
I had to tell Joe about that. It was so funny.
That's awesome.
It was so funny. But make 5 offers a day.
It's simple.
That goes back to anything. I don't care if you want to be a comedian, write 5 jokes a day.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't make any difference, right?
Yep.
If you want to get healthy, run 5 miles, walk 5 miles, do 5 push-ups. It doesn't make any difference. Whatever it is, just do it.
The consistency.
Just do it.
Yeah. So for you, you said you've always been a practitioner. Like, do you remember your first deal? I mean, do you remember putting this information into practice for the first time?
I remember exactly my first deal. My first deal, and most people aren't even going to understand this, but my first deal was an FHA non-qualifying assumable loans.
Okay.
FHA used to make loans, right? And the loan was fully assumable. Like if I bought a house and moved into it and got an FHA loan, if I decided I wanted to sell it, my buyer could assume that loan, non-qualifying, no credit check. All they had to do was fill out a transfer thing.
That's like a legal sub too.
Right. Not that sub 2 is illegal.
That's an approved way.
That's
a
another
bank
podcast.
Approved. That's a bank approved sub 2.
That's another podcast episode there. But yeah, it was an FHA non-qualifying assumable loan. They were a couple payments behind. I called up their payments. I took over the loan. I rented that property out for maybe 5 years. And then here's what I did. I sold it on a wrap. My first deal, right? I sold it on a wrap. It had a low interest loan. I sold it. I got a down payment, a nice down payment. I wrapped the financing. So my buyer was paying me more than I was paying FHA. So I got to collect a few $100s on the front end and then send the payment in. But that was my very first deal. And then I sold the note.
Did you do this all at the same time or just over time you did different pieces?
Just over time.
Yeah.
Just over time. But there's so many people out there that teach all these complicated ways. There's so many simple ways to do it. Like I would probably never do a deal like that now, right? But I was young. I don't want to say I didn't know better, but because there's a lot of people making good money doing wraps. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But I like to keep things simple. I like to keep things simple, uncomplicated. There's people out here that talk about how to structure deals and, it just gives you a headache putting it together. I and I do seller financing deals where I always make an offer. In fact, part of my marketing strategy is market to properties that are free and clear. So if their price is here and I have to pay here, I'll pay them this price.
With good terms.
With terms, right?
Yeah.
So I always make a terms offer, but typically I want to pay you cash and I never have to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Right? I'm done. It's over. So if I buy that 10 acres for 10 grand and I close on it and it's in my name, I don't care if I sell it for 500,000. They can't say anything about it. They got their money, right?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, on that deal, she told me what she would take. I didn't have to make an offer. Now, at that kind of price, I'm all about negotiating. I'm a really good negotiator. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm pretty good on the phone, right? I'm pretty good talking to people. But at 10 grand, why am I going to say, I'll give you 8, right? Why am I going to say that?
For sure. I mean, the only reason you would say something is because sometimes I've seen where if you do accept their first offer, they kind of feel a certain kind of way, like, oh, I could have gotten more.
Well, but you have to explain that away. You know, a property like this, it's out here, it's in the middle of nowhere, it's on a dirt road. You know, I would normally be somewhere around 5 to 7. If I can do your 10, how quick can we
Yeah,
close?
yeah.
You know, you got to explain all that away.
Yeah. I know, that's great.
Yeah.
No, I love, even going back to the earlier example that I gave, where I said, well, what would you do? What would you offer?
Right.
And just when you said they need you more than you need them, and to know that, you talked about, you were going to flea markets and stuff. You know how I kind of got started in just entrepreneurship, and I didn't even know I was getting started. I used to go to concerts, sporting events, football games, baseball games, everything.
Right.
So I grew up close to Chicagoland area.
Right.
And we would even just go into the University of Alabama, going to football games and stuff. So I'm always around these sporting events. So I remember going to Wrigley Field as a kid. I was probably 12, 14 years old. And folks are just, they got tickets. It's completely different now because you don't have hard tickets anymore. Everything's online, everything. But they got tickets for sale. And I'm like, how much? And it's like, right, but the game's about to start. And they're like, here, just take them.
That's scarcity and sense of urgency right there.
we can't, or just give me $10. I'm like, the game's about to start. Who else are you going to sell them to? So I get free tickets or really cheap tickets, and I turn around and be like, $10, $20, and just resell the tickets. I did this Alabama games when I was in college. I would go to, there's a threat of rain. It's not raining. There's a threat of rain. I'd go to the grocery store. I'd go buy 20 ponchos for like $2 a piece and go out and sell them for 10. Right as soon as the first drop of rain, it gets cloudy. I'm like, $10, $10. I'm doing this as like an 18, 19, 20-year-old. And
that's awesome.
Baseball cards.
Right.
When I was a kid too, baseball cards, just wheeling dealing baseball cards for like a quarter here, resell it for 50 cents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just something just simple.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of like, for me, it's always kind of been, and you gave me an example before we even started this show about, there's a kid that you've been mentoring.
Yeah. Jesse. Yeah.
Where, it's just, hey, I'm going to go get something free that's listed on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Hey, just come pick it. Just come pick it up.
Right.
In some of these cases, this is some really good stuff.
Right.
They just want it gone.
Right.
I can go load that thing up in my little pickup truck, and I can maybe dust it off and maybe, clean it up a little bit. I can resell this thing for $40, $50.
Yeah.
Maybe even charge a delivery fee.
Exactly.
So like things like that, where when people kind of tell me, it's like, how do you get started? I feel like that's the kind of thing, the action taking. I don't know. How do you teach that? You've been teaching and coaching people for so long. How do you teach that side of it?
It's right here.
Yeah. How do you teach that though?
It's right here. It's anybody can teach you tactical things, how to market, how to negotiate, how to do all that stuff. But you got to have that drive, and you got to have the mentality of being self-disciplined and taking action and doing something about it. Most people don't look at it as business. Real estate is just a business. That's all it is. You could be selling vacuum cleaners, right? You could be selling tickets at the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference. It's business, right? Most people they have the mentality about a 9 to 5, payday, quitting time, all that stuff, right? You have to look at it as like, I am in control of my own destination. And if it's to be, it's up to me. I've got to take it on. If I fail, it's my fault. If I succeed, I didn't do it by myself. It's everybody around me, right? Everybody around me helped me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got to, I think a person really first needs to work on their mindset. I mean, why do you think so many people used to Zig Ziglar and now Tony Robbins and so many other ones like that, Brendan Burchard, all these people that are motivational, that keep you fired up. There's a reason that you even look up a video or videos on YouTube, they have millions and millions of hits and people watch them daily, every day, because they need to keep that motivation. But you can learn that.
Let me ask you something. Who's in your corner? One of the biggest breakthroughs in my real estate journey came when I stopped trying to figure it all out on my own and I started surrounding myself with high-level investors who are actually doing deals and building real businesses. That's why I created Board of Advisors, a curated mastermind for real estate entrepreneurs who are serious about growth. We're talking real conversations about cash flow, hiring, deal flow, burnout, and strategy, the stuff that actually moves the needle. We're meeting October 6th and 7th in Birmingham, Alabama. And if you've been feeling stuck or isolated or like your business could grow faster with the right people around you, then I want you to go to boamastermind.com and enter that promo code podcast. That way you get a deep discount, and that way you can join us. And when I say deep discount, I really mean it. I'm literally only covering my costs to host the event. So go ahead and go to boamastermind.com, enter that promo code podcast, and join us here in Birmingham. And I just want to be clear here, this isn't one of those flashy masterminds full of influencers trying to build their followings. This room is built for operators, real estate investors who want to scale their business, not their social media presence. Go to boamastermind.com, enter the promo code podcast, and meet me in Birmingham on October 6th and 7th. How would you, going back to those days when you're really coaching and teaching people, probably working with some of them one-on-one, I found that I'm as much a therapist sometimes as I am a real estate coach.
That's true.
So what were maybe some of the things you would do to help folks kind of get this mind?
Number one, they have to write out their vision. What do they want their life to look like? Right? And then what kind of person do you have to become? Jim Rohn, my favorite speaker, trainer, died in 2009. Listen to anything that Jim Rohn has. I listened to it the other day. I'm in the room above the garage cleaning out some stuff. I'm listening to Jim Rohn. You just got to have that mindset and work on that mindset all the time to keep it going. It's like exercising. I exercised yesterday. I don't need to exercise today. It's the same thing with mindset and motivation. You got to keep all that going, right? Yeah, I love
by listening to things and reading books.
Yeah, all that. Podcast, everything. You wouldn't believe how many books I have on Audible. The Audible had a sale the other day. Everything's about 80% off. I must have bought, instead of using credit, I must have bought 30 books, right? That were in my wish list, right? So yeah, just listening to podcasts, listening to books, podcasts like this, just whatever you want to learn about, whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you're lacking, whatever it is you need help in. There's books, podcasts, seminars, coaches, mentors for that. But it's up to you to take action.
So that's what I was going to ask you next too, because I mean, that's one piece of it. And then you, and I'm sure you've seen this too, where it's almost like you've got the seminar junkie. You've got the person who's just going to do nothing but watch YouTube and nothing but listen to podcasts and go to all the RIA meetings, but it's been years and they've never done a deal. How do you help someone make that shift?
It's a really good question. Some people are pleasure motivated. Some people are pain motivated, right? What motivates you? Having, a new Lambo, having a nice house, having all your bills paid, or is your motivation, if I don't bring in some money, I'm going to be kicked out on the street next month, right? Or they're going to repo my, car. There's some people are pain and some people are pleasure. You got to find out what that is, right? I think I'm a little bit of both, actually, but you got to find out what motivates you. I went through a long period of time making a lot of money, buying a lot of toys and all that. And then I got to the point where, all this stuff is cool, but it don't really matter. I spent the last probably 5 years paying off all my debt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm debt free.
Yeah.
I owe nobody nothing,
Mm.
right? And that's such a great feeling.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
you know,
Scott, going back to Scott Jelinek, he used to say, look, you can plug your calculator is going to sit here and tell you that, hey, if I leverage this thing, I'm going to make way more money.
Right.
Your accountant's going to sit here and say, hey, you leverage this thing, you got all these write-offs, you're going to save a lot of, you're going to make a lot of money here. And your attorney, hey, if you leverage this thing, you're going to be, kind of immune from losses. They're going to see this thing leverage to the hills. There's nothing to sue for.
Right.
But there's no button on the calculator for peace of mind.
That's right. I love it. I've heard him say that same thing at dinner.
It just resonated with me.
There's no button for peace of mind.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
If everything stopped, you were put in a hospital or whatever,
yeah.
You don't have to worry about the mortgage or the car payment or whatever, right?
Or the 100 mortgages that you have on 100 sub-2 properties.
Right. In fact, I've started, the only mortgages I will hold now is a seller finance, non-recourse, fully assumable mortgage.
Do those exist?
I create them when I buy properties. I bought a self-storage facility 2 years ago, 2 years in April, from a guy who's 82 years old, and I got 30-year fixed rate, fully assumable, non-qualifying.
That you could take and give to someone else. Is that what you're?
And I already have.
Yeah.
But I bought it. I kept it 2 years. I automated it. I raised the value and I sold it. And I was going to do a wrap on that just to keep a little piece of, because it was a pretty decent spread. But the guy said, instead of that, he said, I'll just pay you enough down payment to where I can just take over that. And it was at 5% interest.
That way you don't ever have to stay in the deal. You can be free from that deal.
I don't have to stay in the deal. Yeah.
Do you write that into all your mortgages?
I have it in my contract that says it. My contract, when I buy a property, it's a one-page contract. So I can tell my seller, I've got a simple standard. I use the word standard because it says standard real estate contract on it. I have a simple standard one-page agreement.
So simple and so great. I love that.
I have a simple standard one-page agreement. It says I'm buying as is where it is for cash, and I'll pay all closing costs and all attorney fees. Right? And it has a little paragraph in there for seller financing, because I make a seller financing offer on every property. If I don't make an offer, at least I say, hey, the only way I can pay your price is if you consider selling on the installment sale. That's where you get monthly payments plus interest, and I can give you your price. Is that something you want to hear more about? And that's all I say.
Larry, I want to kind of go back to and talk about I kind of don't even like the word guru, but to kind of go back to those days where you very first started kind of teaching and coaching, for me, I became so visible in our marketplace and people just kept asking me, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? So it just kind of happened on its own for me.
Right.
How did it kind of start for you?
That is a great question. And that's exactly how it started for me. First of all, what I did was, let me back up. Our local RIA group, which is the local chapter of National RIA, Metrolina RIA, Candace and I owned it for a while. When I got involved in the local RIA group, and this was in the 90s, okay, we were sitting around at a board meeting, and I got elected to the board, and we were sitting around in a board meeting, and the president at that time, Alan Thompson, he's passed away now, but he asked everybody, why are you on the board? Why are you on the board?
Mm-hmm.
So we went around the room. Everybody's like, I want to give back to the community. I want to help people. I want to be able to show people what to do. I want to make sure people do it the right way. It came to me, I said, to get more deals. I mean, yeah, I do care about all that other stuff. But when you position yourself as a person of authority at your local RIA, all those newbies coming in, who are they going to ask for questions? Who are they going to come up to and say, I got this deal. Can you help me out with?
Heck yeah, I can.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it came to me and I said, to get more deals. So I came up with this little term.
Well, how did they react to that? How did the board members react to that?
They kind of laughed, but they got it because I was a wholesaler then, right? So it was kind of funny that, it worked that way. But I became what's called a big fish in a small pond,
Mm-hmm.
right? The small pond being Charlotte, MSA.
Mm-hmm.
I became a big fish in a small pond. Eventually, I was elected the president of
Mm-hmm.
the group. And then after a while, I wanted to start having the group sell coaching, sell mentoring, do
What
seminars and
was it
all that.
before then?
It was just a RIA group, just a regular RIA group, had no coaching. This was back in the day when RIA groups didn't do
So
coaching.
who would take me through just a meeting? What would it look like before
Uh,
you
you
changed?
you might have a local appraiser, you might have
Right.
somebody from the building inspection department or zoning or fair housing or something come in and speak, and you'd have a little meeting and networking and all that. But I'd started going to seminars, and I'd already been listening to seminars. I presented when I was president. I presented at the group. In fact, this was my third year as president. They even changed the bylaws because you could only be president 2 years. They changed the bylaws to reelect me for a third year, right? So apparently I was doing okay, right? But I told them, I said, look, I've got this real estate business. I've got some people in accounting. I've got some marketing people. I said, how about we take Metrolineria national? Let's start doing coaching, mentoring, doing some marketing, doing seminars, and teaching a lot of people how to do real estate. And and I want a small percentage of that for doing it and setting it up. And they basically fired me. They
Hmm.
kicked me off. They kicked me out of the group, fired me. So I went and did it myself, right?
Wow.
And that's how I got started teaching, coaching, mentoring. I wrote a few books about it. I did all that. But eventually, I ended up buying the group back. I bought the group and grew it back up and then eventually sold it again.
Mm-hmm.
Candace and I owned it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What made you want to write the books and do all that stuff? Like you could have just brought people in, hey, pay me and I'll coach you, I'll teach you what I'm doing. What made you make it really a business? What made you make it bigger than
Well,
just that?
well, a lot of people in the coaching business, they do one or two deals and all of a sudden they're an expert, right? Yeah, I know you've seen people like that, right?
You're talking about nowadays.
Nowadays, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
certainly.
there's people like and plus a lot of them are just online only, so you don't really know what they're doing, right?
Well,
They
Larry,
rented a Lambo for the day to shoot a video.
I've heard that. I've heard of that. I don't have any firsthand knowledge to know if that's true. But look, I'm not disagreeing with you. But someone who's done one deal has something to teach someone who's never done a deal.
I'll be the first one to tell you a good idea doesn't care where it comes from. I'll be the first one to tell you. But for them to take on, for that person who's done one deal to take on the responsibility of charging somebody for coaching and mentoring, that they have to get their mindset right.
Right.
They have to understand business. They have to understand accounting. They have to understand
I
laws. They have to understand wholesaling or whatever it is they're doing. You need more than that, right?
When I first got started coaching and teaching, I didn't realize that it really became like almost as much as 90% of it was I was their therapist.
It was mindset.
It was people coming in and I'm like, okay, well, I gave you stuff to do for the week. Well, let's talk about it. And you do this. No, we didn't do it. What happened? Well, my husband did this and he didn't do his part and he argued it. And then she's doing this and she's not holding her in the, and I'm like, what is happening right now? I wanted to be a teacher. Like I'm a teacher.
Right.
Like
right,
I wanted,
right.
This is where I first learned that there's a big difference between being able to teach, like draw it up on the chalkboard, right? Like teach you real estate. I was great at that, but I had no experience in coaching someone.
What a lot of people
mentoring someone.
They want you to, number one, they want you to do it for them.
Yes.
If it's not that, they want to do it like you're doing it. The people who followed me, they want to do what Larry's doing. So that's all I did. I showed them what I was doing. And I just peeled back the curtain and showed them everything. If they needed help with it, I don't care if they asked me, where do you get your business cards? Which they have. I would tell them. It doesn't really matter. But you're right, man. So much of it is the mindset.
Yeah.
It's like being a therapist or a bartender, right?
Yeah. Well, once I figured that piece out, it helped me be a better coach. I think we probably all, if you are starting to coach or teach people, you're going to have to kind of figure that out on your own. I don't know. There aren't very many coaches to coach you how to be a coach. Although we
There's
know
a few of them.
yeah, we have a mutual friend, Tom Kroll, who's doing that now, but there's not
And
a lot
he's
of that.
very, very good
He's
at
excellent. He's
Yeah.
excellent. So when did you start traveling around? Because when I got started in 2012, our local RIA, it's like every time you come, there's somebody from out of state coming in, and they're going to give you a big old, here's a couple of things, get y'all excited, and oh, you want to learn how to do that? Run to the back of the room, meet me at the back of the room. It's $9.99 or $14.97, coming up with all these ridiculous numbers.
Right.
But if you act now, and if you do this, and you'll get this, and this is a $4,000 value, I'm going to slash it, and meet me in the back of the room with your credit card.
I was one of those guys. And I was very, very good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could get people to the back of the room.
Right.
Seminar promoters used to have me come speak.
Yeah.
Because I could make sales.
Right.
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 And
so why is that important? Obviously, it's important for you, but why was it important for them?
I'm going to tell you. Okay. Number one, you got to give the bonuses. You got to do all that. You got to slash the price because you got to give them a reason to act now instead of wait. I'll just buy it online later. Right. You know what's going to happen? They're never going to buy it online.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is promoters would have me back because they knew if one of their students called up our office and said, I'm having a problem with my login, or I didn't get this, or I didn't get that, we're going to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take care of it. And I used to give a 6-month, $60,000 guarantee. If you don't make 60 grand in 6 months, just send it back. We'll give you your money back. And we didn't ask for any money from the promoter either. And how many refunds do you think we had? So very, very few.
So let's be clear on something. So the promoter is going to bring you into town to speak at their event, and they're getting a cut of it.
Right.
How would that work?
It's usually 50-50.
50-50.
Yeah, usually 50-50. But they knew not only could we sell, but we had a good product. We had successful students. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of testimonials like Scott does now.
Yeah.
We had hundreds of testimonials. I used to have a web page that I would show that I had videoed of me just scrolling through testimonials. And that would last about 5 minutes while I was talking, right? Of people who did a deal, made this much money, did a deal, made that much money, did a deal, was able to quit their job. Their wife was able to be a stay-at-home mom, whatever, right?
And you found that to be important to try to get them to buy.
I think the buyer needs that. They need to see that they're not the first one, right? But I think it's also important to mention that, listen, there's nothing wrong with coaching and mentoring. I have spent more on my own education through courses, coaching, mentoring than a Harvard, Yale, and Princeton graduate combined. I guarantee you. I've spent a lot. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of lanyards from now, some of them I was a speaker at, but I've been to a lot of events over the years. A lot of events. Spoken at many, but I've also attended, been in many masterminds, Collective Genius, Leadership Boardroom, a lot of other masterminds and coaching programs. So I'm not afraid to spend money on coaching.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I used to sell this stuff, but I know the value of it and I know what it can do to help you.
For sure.
I know that.
When did you, do you remember the first time you traveled out of town to speak?
I do.
First of all, what made you, is that just where the demand was, or that's what you wanted to do? You wanted to be a speaker? How did that
I did want to be a speaker. I used to go and watch speakers like Ted Thomas. He was such a closer. He was great.
What made you want to do that? What made you want to be a closer?
I was used to being in front of people. I was used to being in front of people, because I traveled as a musician for a little while, not a lot, but when I was younger. And I would go watch speakers and I would sit and take notes. I would do this. And I even paid speaker trainers.
Mm.
You know, I went to Sean's speaker training event. I hired a speaker trainer. I used to speak at the Learning Annex when their big draw was Trump before he was president. I used to go speak at those events, and we would hire a coach and help us to learn how to do
Were you always speaking to sell?
that. Yes. Yeah.
How did you learn how to sell? Just by watching other people?
By
In the
watching.
very beginning, because Sean wasn't around when you first
Yeah.
got started.
So I did learn how to sell from stage by watching other people, telling stories, funny equals money, stuff like that. I would tell jokes. I would do self-deprecating humor. You know, I mean, I'm from South Carolina. There's a lot of humor there, right? So,
Same with Alabama,
right. I wasn't going to say it. I was waiting on you to say it.
for sure.
Right. I just learned as much as I could. I just got absorbed in it.
Mm.
And I remember I still have the book downstairs in my library. It's called How to Make It Big in the Seminar Business.
Mm.
I got that book when I was a teenager.
Wow.
And when
What made you get that book as a teenager?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But you asked me about my first out of town speaking gig.
Yeah.
So I used to tell the story when I was speaking on stage of how I got started, right? Because I had this business partner in my lending business. We were doing hard money lending, and I had this business partner, and she came in when I first met her. She came in. She said, "Larry, there's a RIA group in town, and I think if I can get my way in there." And this was before she even worked for me. She came in for an interview, right? She said, "There's a RIA group in town, and they got a lot of real estate investors. And I believe if I can get my foot in the door, we can get a lot of business. Have you ever heard of them?" I said, "I just so happen to be the president." So she came to work with me, and she did so much for our business. I made her my business partner.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah, I made her my business partner, and I used to tell that story from stage. And then the way I got into to teaching real estate, writing courses and selling courses, so many people would bring us deals they didn't know what they were doing. So I started teaching people how to do real estate deals so I could get the loans, right? And that just kind of grew where then I started doing seminars, started doing coaching, and my very first speaking gig was Metrolina RIA. They couldn't turn me down for a speaking gig. I was the president, right? So that was my very first gig, you know, speaking.
And you sold.
And I sold. I sold a course.
Were you allowed to
right?
sell?
I was the president. So yeah, I mean, they had speakers that would travel around, you know, come in and speak.
Gotcha.
But kind of the seminar circuit.
Right.
But my first out of town gig, it was in Chicago, Illinois. It was for a RIA group up there. And, you know, I didn't travel a whole lot, right? So I get on the plane, I get up here, I get to the hotel, and I'm trying to check in. I'm like, what happened to my driver's license? I don't have my driver's license. And it was a convention, they had multiple speakers, right? So I'm at the check-in counter trying to check into my hotel room at the hotel where they're having the event. And she said, "I'm sorry, we got to have an ID for you, you know." So I said, "Is that for the event?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Look, that's my picture right there. I'm speaking here," you know, so that's who I am. So she gave me my room based on that, me being in the magazine to speak.
Otherwise,
right. And my wife FedExed me my passport up to Chicago.
Wow. How'd it go? How'd the speaking event go? Do you remember?
Great. It was great.
You sold?
It was really good. Yeah, I sold. And I kind of got a reputation of being able to sell very well. And we had really good customer service, and we had a lot of successful students, and we were getting testimonials all the time. And I was also very big. Like if I came to speak at your group, before I left, you would shoot a video for me telling me how well I done and that you want to have me back. And I put that on a page for other promoters to see so they would book me. And I was gone more than I was home for many years.
Yeah.
I would speak all over the country, traveling. And we just had, at one time, we had 26 employees between real estate and the education business. And it was just a machine. It really was. We would order books by the thousand. I would sign them. We had campaigns for giving away books. I would go to RIA groups. I would hand out these little cards. They'd fill them out. We'd come back and mail them a book. We would even pay for shipping. Yeah.
How did you feel at the height of it? How did all that make you feel? Is that what you wanted at the time?
It was for a while. It was. And I enjoyed it. I liked the attention. I loved getting to know people like you and all the other speakers, promoters, trainers, coaches. You know, I've got relationships with many of them, still do, even though I've been out of it for a few years. I loved that, but I came to realize that it wasn't part of my vision, right?
How much longer, or how long did that take for you to come to that realization? Because I feel like that's somewhat a newer revelation for you.
When it started being a drain, where do I get business cards? You know, something like that. Seriously? Where do I get? I mean, you paid me 15 grand for me to coach you, and where do you get business cards? You know, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Sure.
But there's some people that probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur. That's just the way it is. Would you agree with that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think especially the person that's been an employee for so long.
That's a different mindset.
It
took me a long time to get out of the limelight, out of the, going into a RIA meeting and everybody knowing who I was. I was there. I was the speaker for that night. It took me a long time to get over that, but that's something I needed because of a pride issue, because pride is not good.
But it feels good.
It does, but it's not good. It took me a long time to, in fact, Candace and I used to, Candace, my integrator, and was with me for many, many years now. She's a coach, mentor, coaches integrators and visionaries. And I used to tell her after I got out of it, I used to be somebody. But and in fact, this is the first podcast I've done, and probably the first one I've done in years. Yeah. Most time I tell people no. Yeah. I just tell them no.
I did one with you through Zoom. I hate doing Zoom now. I like this better.
Yeah, this is cool.
It's just better.
Yeah. Zoom is lazy, right?
Well, it's necessary in a lot of cases, right. But I think it was 2021.
Oh, really?
We did one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I think you had this as the background. You had guitars as a background.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you might have. I know you got your little setup there. Maybe you were standing right there.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, it was because we've only been in this house for 3 years.
So it must have been.
So it was at our previous house. Okay. I had a music room.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, so Larry, where are you today? And I know we talked about where you are with real estate, but where are you kind of in your personal life? You're sitting here talking about vision. Was understanding like your vision and really having a clear picture of what that looks like, how long has that been since you've had that? How long have you been crystal clear on what you want the rest of your life to look like?
Probably 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
I went through a point where this was in 2018. We had a lot of employees. I was out there speaking, coaching, training, writing courses, writing books. We were bringing in a ton of money, millions of dollars a year, but we were spending millions of dollars a year. And I had a home equity line of credit. I wasn't on top of everything. I had a bookkeeper that had access to that. I woke up one day and wait a minute, I owe $788,000 on my HELOC. What happened here? Where like slow months, payroll, this, that, whatever. All of a sudden, I'm almost $1 million in debt, and I got all these employees, and it's a treadmill. And I was at a leadership boardroom meeting, and they're like, Larry, you're going to have a heart attack. You're going to have a heart attack if you keep this up. So I started working on myself. I started exercising. I started running.
Oh.
Yeah, you run, don't you? A little bit. So I started running. I don't run as much anymore, but I do exercise. I got up this morning and exercised up here. Yeah, I started working on myself first. I had kind of an intervention from Leadership Boardroom. Sean McCloskey, Joe McCall, and Ron Phillips came to my office and spent 2 days with Candace and I.
Mm.
And I totally turned the business around. I changed it. I changed exactly what I wanted to do. I had a plan. By X number of years, I would be out of that business, right? And literally within 2 years, I paid off all the debt.
Mm.
I started selling things, paying off this, paying off that, and my goal has been to get to where I have 100% passive income, 100% tax-free passive income. So I work on building my IRA, HSA, 401k, and doing deals in those. I'll wholesale a property here and there in those, just enough to where I'm not a dealer, but I do private lending in those.
Mm-hmm.
I might buy some land and hold it in one of them and sell
Mm-hmm.
it in a year or two, or subdivide it or something in a year or two. But I like doing the passive stuff. I still like chasing the deals. I'm a deal junkie.
Mm.
I'm a deal junkie. I told you about the guy that I met
Mm-hmm.
that sold me this house.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, he had originally showed me some land. We just really hit it off, and he and I've done 3 or 4 subdivisions together. In our IRAs, I find the deal, he puts up half the money, I put up half the money, and he sells the deals, right? So that's been all in our IRA, and those have been great partnerships,
Right.
So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing right now. I do some volunteer work. I love helping the homeless people. I got a passion for homeless people. There's so much more than just the money. The money's just stuff, right? But I really do think people need to help other people instead of just helping themselves, right? It's all about gimme, 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 gimme. How much can I do? How many Lambos can I buy? How many of this? How many of that? And don't get me wrong. I'm not a minimalist by any means. You've seen my house, but, but, but I do believe there's a lot more than just money, right?
If you go back to 2018-ish, in that moment, what would you have done differently previous to 2018? Would you have done anything differently?
I think I needed that intervention. Ron Phillips, right?
Yeah.
Ron
He's awesome. He's
he's
incredible.
awesome. He's solid. Great businessman. We had all our financials out there, and Ron's looking at them, just kind of like an accountant type, looking at them. He threw them down on the table. He said, "Larry, you've been out of business 3 years." And he and and that hit me like a ton of bricks. You've been out of business 3 years, because we were just on a treadmill. I was trying to get off the road. I'd get off the road, the bank account would go down. I'm like, you got to get me back on the road. I got to get back on the road. So we had to make some drastic changes. And it took a long time. But I started making those changes right quick. And the sad part, back in 2018, when Ron and Joe and Sean came out to the office, spent a couple of days with us, Candace was going on vacation right after they left. She came back, and our staff was about a third of what it was before. So I started making changes right away. Her phone's blowing up the whole time she's gone. Like, what's going on with Larry? Do you know what he's done? Do you know what,
Wow.
So I probably shouldn't have done that to her, but we needed to make some changes quick,
right.
And that's one of the problems with a lot of people that start seeing some money. They lose track and they think it's going to last forever. They think it's going to keep coming in. So they go out and go in debt and buy this and buy that and buy, you're better off creating some passive income, right? You don't need all the toys, right? Toys are nice, but you need to take care of yourself first and take care of your family first, and, get yourself in a position where peace of mind, like you said, there's no peace of mind button on a calculator, as Scott would say, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
Where are you today? You feel like you're happy? Feel like you're where you wanted to be?
I'm growing we go to a church right down the street called Edgemore Baptist Church, and I've learned more at that church than I have seminars, boot camps, podcasts, all that. I've learned what's important. I spent the vast majority of my adult life chasing the dollar, and money was my God, right? And I have learned that, and maybe that's one of the reasons I got out of speaking, and because it was all about me. But it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not about how much more could I get, how much more can I earn, what can I buy, what can I, it's not about that at all. I've learned to become a better human. I've learned to become, I've learned what's important, and what's important really is having a relationship with Jesus, and with Him as your Lord and Savior, and that's the only way we're going to get out of here alive, right? So I do try to focus on that. Don't get me wrong; I still like to make money. I love to make money. I don't love money, right? I use money as a tool, and I do help a lot of people. I've bought people cars. I've bought, made major campaign contributions to building funds and stuff like that, and helped homeless people. Just last week, I met a homeless guy, and him and his wife and son are living in a hotel, and I paid their hotel for a week, and my wife went and got him some clothes and stuff like that. So, we do, if we set aside 10% of everything we bring in, not net, 10% of the gross. Like if we sold a deal, made 40 grand, we're going to put 4,000 off to the side, and we're going to use that as a bucket to be able to help people. And it's like, if I want to help somebody, if Candace knows somebody that needs help, if Teresa, our accounting manager, knows somebody that needs help, or we meet somebody or whatever, we've bought electric wheelchairs. We've done all kinds of stuff. And I'm not saying this to say I've done this, and I typically don't even want to tell people, what I'm doing. But I think that's another thing that has to do with pride. Look what I did. Look how much money I gave to this. Look how much money I gave to that. So I try to keep that stuff quiet. Just like when Sunday school, I was asking them to pray for, this guy's name's Larry too. Pray for Larry. I didn't tell him in Sunday school that I paid his room for a week, or gave him some food and gave him clothes. I didn't say any of that, and in the past I would have, right? Maybe I should feel bad because I'm saying it right now, but anyway, I'm trying to make a point that it's not about what I can do, but it's about helping other people. And, listen, we all have only so many days. Money can buy you a house, but it can't give you a home. Money can buy you a Rolex, but it can't give you one more second here on earth with the people you love. And money can buy you a cross to hang around your neck, but it can't give you salvation.
Any regrets?
I wish I would have been more kingdom focused in the beginning. I wasn't kingdom focused in the beginning, and I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still an infant, but I'm working on it. I'm working on myself. Yeah.
Awesome. It's good. I think that's a good way to end things. I can't thank you enough for letting me come out here.
I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much for listening to today's show. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you got any value today, please take 30 seconds and leave us a quick review. To get connected with me or to become a part of the Board Advisors community, go to boamastermind.com. That's boamastermind.com. We'll see you guys on the next one.